Shall we have a quick conversation about how to get approved for an EIN only, no personal guarantee startup business loan from a big national bank? I think we should. Don't go anywhere. You're going to love today's conversation. I guarantee it. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of the Awesome Sort of Kiwi Show. How are you today? I hope you are doing fantastic. I'm doing marvelous, if you are to ask me. If you are doing as great as I am, go grab a cup of coffee or tea or vodka and let's roll. In today's tutorial, I want to explain to you how to get approved for an EIN only, no personal guarantee startup business loan from a big national bank. There are 7 steps, okay? The first thing you need to do is to understand EIN only lending. When we speak about EIN only borrowing, what does that mean? First, let's explain EIN. EIN stands for Employer Identification Number. So when we speak about EIN only lending, we are speaking about a transaction in which the lender pays attention to the company's credit and not the personal credit. And there are several benefits that come with EIN only borrowing. For example, your personal affairs are clearly divorced from your business's affairs. So if the business were to, let's say, were to be in a lawsuit, your private assets will be segregated, will be protected. This is very important. You can also actually borrow on behalf of the business. You can buy a car in the name of the business. You can actually open a business checking account. So there is a constellation of benefits that come with EIN only, with an EIN only setup. So how do you get it? First of all, you need to get a letter from the IRS, a confirmation letter. You need to apply for the employer identification number, okay? So you just got to go to the IRS website. It takes about 5 minutes. Nothing complicated, very easy. Next, you need to choose the legal structure. You can still have an EIN only. You can have an EIN even if you're a sole proprietorship, but our recommendation on this show is, again, to set up a legit business. You want to separate the business's affairs from your personal affairs. So you can either be an LLC, LP, an S Corp, a C Corp, you name it. You also need to think about setting up your accounting function. Let me ask you a question. Big decision time. Do you currently outsource your accounting function? Do you take care of it yourself? Do you have an in-house? Do you use accounting software like QuickBooks, Xero, Wave, Expensify? What are you using right now? I want you to talk to me. I want you to think about that. You also need to think about the operational setup of your business, very important, as well as business permits and licenses, and also making sure that your accounting setup allows you to prepare clear and accurate financial statements. Step number 2, you need to start with your bank. If your goal is to get approved for an EIN only, no personal guarantee startup business loan from a big national bank, you better start with your own big bank. Are you currently at a bank? Is it a national bank? Is it a credit union? Is it a community bank? Is it a regional bank? Chances are everybody, at least a lot of folks, have a big national bank. By a big national bank, I'm speaking about the Chase of the world, the Wells Fargo, the Bank of America, the PNC, the Santander, right? So you want to start there. If you're lucky to have an account with them, that's great. Of course, here I'm speaking about a business account or a savings account, not a personal account, okay? We are here in a business context. Very important. And you also want to learn from your bank the business loan requirements. What are the requirements? Do they welcome startups? Do they welcome the sector in which you currently operate? Because some banks do not actually favor granting loans to some sectors. For example, the cannabis sector is a sector that is quote unquote controversial for some banks. So you want to inquire about that also. What are the basic revenue requirements? Let me ask you a question. Big decision time. Are you making money right now? Is your business generating some ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching right now? Talk to me. Talk to me. I'm not speaking about projections. I'm not speaking about forecast. I'm speaking about some real cash. Are you pulling some cash in? If yes, then that's pretty good. So then you want to ask your bank, what is the minimum requirement for EIN only, no personal guarantee, startup business loan? Is it $10,000? Is it 20 grand? Is it 25 grand per month? And of course, the numbers are gross income, pre-tax income. You also want to inquire about a personal guarantee waiver. You want to talk to your banker about how to get a personal guarantee waiver. That means that when you apply for this loan, the bank is not going to ask you for a personal guarantee. So that waiver is important, and there are some conditions you need to meet before the waiver can be granted. For example, some banks will be comfortable waiving the waiver, waiving the personal guarantee requirement if you agree to secure the loan. So you can ask about whether the loan can be secured or unsecured. In other words, you can collateralize the loan fully or partially. You also want to think about single application versus joint application. So would you qualify for a personal guarantee waiver if you were to have someone who is more creditworthy than you? And you also want to talk to the banker about the importance of personal financial statements in the whole process of waiving the personal guarantee requirement. Step number 3, you need to identify other banks. So step number 2, you need to start with your own bank. If you're currently banking at a big national bank, start with them. And if you're not satisfied with the responses they give you, our recommendation is to identify other banks. So remember that you want to focus on big national banks that are friendlier to startups, that offer EIN only, no personal guarantee startup business loans, okay? And we actually have covered this topic in another video that we entitled Top 10 Largest Startup Business Loans for Fair or Poor Credit from Big National Banks. And so we actually have found that, for instance, Santander is a friendlier bank. So the maximum unsecured loan is $100,000, and they want you to have a minimum operational history of 6 months and minimum annual revenue $100,000. Okay, no personal guarantee required. Then we have Wells Fargo, maximum unsecured loan of $100,000, no personal guarantee required. Minimum annual revenue $120,000. That's gross income, and a minimum operational history 8 months. And then we have here Bank of America. There's the PG required depends on the transaction, and the maximum unsecured loan $500,000. Minimum annual revenue $150,000. Minimum operational history 9 months. And then we have here PNC Bank. No personal guarantees required. Maximum unsecured loan $100,000. Minimum operational history 3 months. And minimum annual revenue, actual or estimated, $180,000. Then we have here US Bank. No personal guarantee required. So in some cases they do require, in some cases they don't. And the maximum unsecured loan is $250,000. Minimum operational history 15 months. Minimum annual revenue $200,000. Okay. And then we have here SunTrust Bank, now Truist, and here there's no personal guarantee required, and maximum unsecured loan $250,000, operational history minimum 9 months, annual revenue minimum $100,000. We have TD Bank here. The personal guarantee required, it depends on the transaction. Minimum annual revenue $150,000, operational history 12 months minimum, and unsecured loan amount maximum $100,000. We have M&T Bank. Maximum unsecured loan $100,000, minimum operational history 4 months, minimum annual revenue $150,000, that's gross, and PG required no. And we have BMO Harris. Here we have a maximum unsecured loan $1 million, PG required yes or no depending on the transaction. We have annual revenue minimum $200,000, $250,000, operational history 15 months minimum. And we have Huntington Bank. Here we have a maximum unsecured loan $250,000. PG required depends on the transaction, operational history 9 months minimum, and annual revenue $120,000. And then we have Comerica Bank. And Comerica Bank here, maximum unsecured loan $30 million, PG required no, annual revenue $250,000, operational history 15 months. Step number 4, you want to review the requirements. Folks, I'm still having a convo with you about how to get an EIN only. No startup business, no personal guarantee, startup business loan from a big bank. So first you need to know what it means to have a EIN only lending. Number two, you want to start with your own bank. Number three, you want to identify other banks that may qualify for this kind of, that offer this kind of EIN only loans. And I just gave you a whole list of those institutions. And number four, you want to review the requirements. So you want to review, when we talk about reviewing requirements, we are speaking about a few things. First of all, the revenue. What is the requirements for this kind of loan? So when you have to ask the banker that question, how much do I have to produce every month to qualify for this loan? And you also want to think about the cash flows requirements. So when we speak about the cash flows, you got to go to a financial statement called the statement of cash flows. And there you have three categories. We have the cash flows from operating activities, cash flows from investing activities, and cash flows from financing activities. Those are three categories that the lender, the underwriter at the big national bank will pay attention to. You also want to ask them about their requirements for EIN only borrowing. Okay, because again, the goal here is to divorce your personal affairs from your business's affairs. You want the bank to leave your credit score, your personal credit score alone here. You also want to ask them what the requirements are for operational setup. What kind of setup do they like? What kind of business structure do they like? What kind of legal structure do they have? Do they need? What about financial audit? Some banks, especially when we speak about big amounts, want to have financial audits. They want to have audited financial statements. Let me ask you a question. Big decision time. Do you know what a financial audit is? Do you know who, what kind of professional provides that kind of service? Talk to me. All right. If you don't know, the thing here is you will need to reach out to a CPA or a public accounting firm. And they are the ones to actually conduct that kind of audit, okay? And you have several types of audits. You have qualified audits. You have unqualified audits. You definitely want to have an unqualified audit. In other words, you want to have a blemish-free, a clean audit is also called an unqualified audit. You also have a disclaimer. You also have some audits that are just adverse. An audit with an adverse decision. So inquire about that. You want to ask the requirements in terms of business plan, in terms of projected financial statements, just in case your startup is so new, you haven't had time to produce any revenue yet, right? You also want to think about the requirements in terms of personal background of the founders. I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another session of the Awesome Sweetie Kiwi Show. We are still having a conversation about how to get approved for an EIN only, no personal guarantee startup business loan from a big bank. Step number 5, you need to connect with the bank. So once you have actually chosen your preferred bank, whether it is your current bank or another bank that you would like to do business with, there are a lot of things you need to do. Especially if you want an EIN only, no personal guarantee startup business loan, there are a lot of things you need to do. What you're trying to do here is you're trying to actually give the bank a lot of reasons to connect with you at a business level. And the first thing you need to do is to establish what we call an MPR. Okay, you need to establish an MPR at the personal level first. So MPR stands for multi-product relationship. You need to open several bank accounts with them at the personal level. Now, by several, I mean two is okay, at least two. It could be a checking or savings. It can be a CD or other accounts. So you want to do that. So once you have this, you have established this relationship at the personal level, you want to solidify it at the business level. And what you do is you open a business checking account. This is just the first step. Okay, let me ask you a question here. Big decision time. Do you currently have a multi-product relationship with your bank? Do you have more than 2 accounts? And I'm not talking about debt accounts. I'm not talking about liability accounts. I'm speaking about asset accounts. I'm speaking about accounts in which the money is yours. So we're speaking about checking accounts, savings accounts. We're speaking about certificate of deposits. We are speaking about brokerage accounts. We are speaking about life insurance products. For instance, some banks, some big national banks also have insurance arms. They do have insurance subsidiaries. So this is what you need to think about. And also retirement planning. You have IRAs, individual retirement accounts. So those are things I want you to think about. I want you to look right now on the screen right now. I have an example of an NPR I want to share with you. And this actually comes from Chase. And you can see here that Chase actually has a constellation of products. So you can see in the second column from the left, you have checking accounts. So here is the whole repertoire of checking accounts that Chase offers. Then they have savings accounts and CDs. You have Chase private clients. Those are for people who are millionaires and who have a lot of cash. But you have planning and investments, right? So with Chase, for instance, if we were to do to establish an NPR, I would say you want to have a Chase checking account. You want to have at least one or two Chase savings accounts. And if you have enough cash left, to have a brokerage account with Chase. Step number 6, I want you to speak to a loan rep. This is important. If you want to have an EIN only, no personal guarantee startup business loan from a big national bank, you can't do it online. I'm sorry. You might be thinking, well, everybody nowadays just wants to do everything online, but guess what? If you do things online, your file, your application is being taken care of by an algorithm. Things are done algorithmically. And you know what? If you are a startup, you don't want to deal with an algorithm. You want to deal with people, real humans. This is why we have done research about this. We see the results. We have advised our own clients. You want to walk into a branch and speak to a loan rep. You want to discuss EIN only, startup business loan requirements. You want to point out the strength of the NPR you have established with the bank at the personal and or business level. The whole thing is about negotiating, right? You want to talk to the loan rep and really put forward the strong elements in your application. Why should the bank give you this loan on an EIN only basis? Especially if you are a startup, if you are a new business, there has to be something else. The bank has to weigh the constellation of pluses versus the constellation of minuses, if any. Okay, and you also can ask the rep about ways to avoid personal guarantee on loans, and you can even show the company's projected financial statements and the updated business plans. Let me ask you a question. Big decision time. Talk to me. I want you to talk to me. Do you currently have an updated business plan for your startup? Do you have projected financials? Because we hear all the time, well, my business is new and I haven't produced revenue yet. Okay, this is fine. But have you prepared an updated business plan? Have you prepared projected financial statements? Have you prepared sales projections? Where do you see yourself and your business 3 months down the road, 6 months, 12 months? Talk to me. 2 years. This is the kind of thinking I want you to have. Because at the end of the day, personal financial statements as well as business financial statements are important. Step number 7, after you've done all this kind of stuff, I want you now to apply. Okay? And as I said earlier, you want to do it at the branch or on the phone. Online is not the preferred option. Okay? And to apply for an EIN only, no personal guarantee startup business loan from a big bank, we are going to use the example of Huntington Bank, okay? And I'm going to quickly go through the loan here. You can see on the screen here for this application form. This is courtesy of Huntington Bank. They want you to put the general information about the company, right? The legal address, the address, the annual sales revenue, business checking account, the type of organization. I was telling you earlier, the legal structure, right? Whether a C Corp, S Corp. Remember, you can always be a sole proprietor. You can get an EIN only, no personal guarantee startup business loan, but it is very difficult because as a sole proprietor, you're not divorcing your personal affairs from your business affairs. So the bank is not going to give you a no personal guarantee business loan. So that's why it's a lot better to have a legit legal structure, a legit business. And you can see on the second screen here, the bank wants to have information about all the owners that have a 20% or more equity stake in the business. And they want for each owner, you got to put the name, the title, the street, the social security number of the owner, and the net worth, among other things. And here the bank wants to know the type of credit you are requesting. Folks, this is a standard, this is a generic application form. This could be different from one bank to another, but overall, the majority of the information that we have here on the Huntington business loan application can be seen elsewhere. And you can see here on the next slide, they're asking about the collateral, if the business or the personal, at the business level or the personal level, okay? And they're asking for if you're pledging, for instance, if you're pledging equipment or real estate, they are asking about the assets. And then you have authorizations and representations. Next, they're asking you to sign and date. Okay, this is very important. Next, they're asking that there are some regulatory things they have to put on the application form. You can see here, Huntington has an intent to apply jointly in case you want to apply jointly. Next, they're asking you for your personal financial statements. This is important also. You just kind of fill that again. Personal financial statements means your balance sheets, your income statements, and your statement of cash flows. Moving on here, they're asking you to sign other stuff. You have the right to receive a copy of appraisal. And here they want you to just fill the personal financial statements, the assets and liabilities. Next, if there are any contingent liabilities. Next, they want you to provide more details. Next, you can see also we have more details also. And they would just want you to sign and date. I'm actually quickly going through this because we have covered this on another show, but I just wanted to give you an idea of what it takes to fill out an EIN only. No personal guarantee, startup business loan from a big bank. All right, folks, this is the end of today's conversation. I was giving you a tutorial about how to get approved for an EIN only, no personal guarantee, startup business loan from a big bank. Number one, you need to understand what EIN only lending means. Number two, I want you to start with your bank. Number three, I want you to identify other banks that might be friendlier to startups. Number four, you want to review requirements. Number five, you want to connect with a specific bank. Number six, you want to speak to a loan rep. Number seven, you want to apply. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. I'll see you next time. But until then, remember, stay marvelous.